Good evening and welcome to Own Your Own Power with Dr. Qaedah Perron. Welcome. This is our very first show. Naturally, this is a podcast. If you're driving, please keep your eyes open and paying attention to the road. You can always pause the video and come back to it at a later time if you need to. So, let's get started for our first podcast of Own Your Own Power. I very much appreciate you attending my podcast, where I will be discussing a variety of types of things when it comes to life, love, health, mental health, and well-being. And hopefully that you can also share my information and be able to learn how to heal yourself and nourish yourself from within, nourishing your soul so that you can feel whole. All right, so where I want to start is to let you know a little bit about myself. I have been in the medical field for a number of years since I was about 16, 17 years old. I started as a CNA. I worked at a locked Alzheimer's ward and worked my first career with that there at a facility there, and worked it all the way up until I reached the hospital scenes. And I worked at a number of hospitals and worked in the surgery post-op as well as other floors. I wanted to be a surgery technician. I've been through a number of surgery operations, heart as well as the brain surgery, not myself particularly, but to sit in and participate in the surgery procedures. Later on, I obviously I've gotten out of the big pharma, and now I do Chinese medicine, which is integrative medicine, for a holistic practitioner. Either I do acupressure or acupuncture. Right now I don't do the full acupuncture. I do the 3-point needlepoint as well as the non-invasive. The non-invasive is the clinical cupping. So then that way I can be able to hit a number of meridian points within your body system and be able to help you to open yourself up and or drain you within your lymphatic system or your lymphatic system. So that's a little bit of that particular information as far as what I do, as well as a number of tissue salts. I do psilocybin therapy. I do psilocybin therapy. I'm more of an eclectic type of a therapist where I can be able to tap into different areas with the individual and be able to help you on a more of an individual case-by-case basis instead of being able to treat you one particular case for everything across the board. Okay? So like I state, I do a number of array of things, okay, as well as being able to teach about sexual health, tantric health, spiritual health, and letting you know how to gain back and take back your own power, which is why I started the podcast of Own Your Own Power. I had actually started to come up with the idea years ago. It's just that it was a matter of time of when it was going to come into a build, because I also have built 911 as well as 988 mental crisis suicide websites. So that was another part of my multifaceted self that I was able to build websites and build all of my websites for myself, as well as my business websites as well, so that I can be able to help others. How I'm going to run this channel today is that of, like I said, I gave my intro. I want to be able to speak with you a little bit about how we are related to our bodies in the 3D here in the matrix system. And that is that we all know that we are made up of water, a body of water, 75 to 85, 95% of water. We would say that it, hopefully. And the other is organ-based with our other fluids. Now, as far as our DNA cellular structure that we are in, each one of us are unique unto our own selves. So we're made up of earth, water, fire, air in the physical, earth. But we all are, when we bleed, we all bleed blue. Okay, so we all are made up of different body structures. At the end of our lifespan, no matter what he or she decides that they want to do with their body, throughout their lifespan, at the end of their life cycle, we know, the coroners would know, whether or not you're a male or female in your bone structure, because of the way that your body is made, as far as your femurs and so forth. So I'm going to be speaking to you a little bit about how we relate down in the 3D, and a little bit more of a sense of where it's a little bit more understandable, in where I'm not using a lot of diction of doctor jargon a lot of times. So then that way I can be able to help you to grasp it within your own self in a more of a eclectic, holistic type of a way. Okay? So naturally, when we're all here, things that we can celebrate and know that we're all on one accord on, naturally some people think, oh, it's a particular holiday, they celebrate it, or it's their birthday. Well, on their birthday, everybody wants to try to celebrate their birthday. The birthday is supposed to be, spectacular. It's a new cycle for you. You would hope to have something new to come into your lifespan. Each one of us have a different type of feel on what we might feel like we want to gain as far as birthdays, like how we may feel about it. Some have had some good birthdays, some may have not. I haven't always had a good birthday, cycle sometimes when I want it, but it still was a birthday. So during a particular transit or cycle, I want to also speak about different types of chakra systems and how it relates to different aura colors, and how we may have a particular dialect that we have and hold with different people, places, and things, and how they may react, or how they make us react or make us feel, and how it affects other people around us. Okay, so right now I'm going to talk about different types of transits and age groups and chakra systems, as far as what we have had to deal with. Okay, so we have our crown chakra, our brow chakra, throat chakra, our heart chakra, our solar plexus chakra, our sacral chakra, and the base, which is the root, okay, which is from the birth, okay, because we come from the yoni, from your mother's pum pum. So we do know that we all came here by birth, and this is a sex planet, because that's how we all got here. Unless there's some other way, as far as scientists deriving you from, incubator and other types of ways. Um, but as far as the base chakra, it is red. The sacral chakra, it is orange. The solar plexus chakra is yellow or gold. And the heart chakra is green. The throat chakra is blue, like a light sky blue. And the brow is a dark cobalt type of blue. And the crown is a purple. So with age coming from the base chakra, it basically gives us from 0 to age 29. We're in our body. So the lower chakras are aligned to mainly sexual organs and are activated and attuned to the life force at the physical creative level. Okay. So that's the physical. Now, when we get up to age 29, between 29, 38, and 44, the solar plexus, okay, is where we would naturally kind of be within the emotional body. And the emotional body is about the solar plexus and the heart chakra. These chakra systems are activated with the emotional body. Feelings about self and others are examined. Okay, so the challenge is to master these emotions and remaining centered with a calm heart, unaffected by the extremes of pain or joy. So, in another chapter or another podcast, I'll also bring in a little bit about tapping in beyond your willpower of love and fear-based reality. Okay, but for now, we're addressing, excuse me, we're addressing the mental next, which is the mental body between the ages of 38 through 44 to 50 years of age. And the maturity sets in, and the energies move up to the throat chakra and the brow. It's supposed to activate the higher mind and the mental creations and moving into the mental body. Okay, so awareness of self expands, and then if it's failure to achieve any full experiences of the self at this age can result in a heart attack in men and blocked throat chakras in women. Now, when I speak about the blocked throat chakra in women, that can be in women and or men, because then their voice becomes a little bit shallow, a little bit when they're speaking in their dialect. So they feel unheard or they cannot speak. Okay, so that's what I mean a little bit about having a blocked throat chakra. It's just not in women. And a lot of times when I'm also discussing in some of my dialect on the podcast, I will not just be addressing the feminine aspect when it relates to only women, because men also have also been able to tap into their feminine aspect and not been able to either come back to the other side to stay in more the masculine energy, or they don't know how to, or they are more comfortable in that energy, excuse me, and the masculine energy are more high alpha, and they aren't really in tune or want to be in tune with the compassionate feminine side of themselves, not other women, because if they're able to do that within themselves, they'll a little bit be able to understand and have sympathetic and empathy a little bit more for the other and opposite of sex. But that's another podcast. So let's move on. So next we have the spiritual being. Now this is from the age of 50 through 50 to 51 to 58. Now this is where we're speaking of the soul and how the soul finds a new form. The self solidifies. So the brow and the crown chakras are activated, and then they're in a connection with a wider consciousness. So you may get a different aspect or perspective of different people. outgrow people that you used to be, connecting with in a different way, but things change. So from about 50 to 51 to 58. So around 58 to 59 and onwards, you're in your spiritual body, which is around your which is what they call your second return of your Saturn. So we'll have to look at that when it comes to how that works. But the past must be released, or lessons reiterated, leading to revisiting. If the actual transition is successful, then the karmic rewards are reaped, and the individual comes into his or her own wisdom. So once that's happened, you can actually say that yes, he or she knows thy portion, and that you've come into thy own. You waked up to the fullness thereof of your own personal DNA, which is that's why you're able to speak in a different way, have a new walk, have a new talk, a new soul, new attitude, and so forth. Okay? So, but right now, this is what we're going to address going forward in different aspects of ourselves. Okay? All right. So, next, we're going to deal with the different types of color energy sensors with the chakra system. Okay, so I spoke about the root chakra system, which is the base, and it is a natural color of red, and energy, strength, anger, sexuality, and passion and fear-based reality, as well as your ego, derives from the root of your base and your anger when you see red. Okay, so we're going to talk about different types of the color sensors and how it relates to the chart and the dialect of its intuitive measures. Okay, so the orange is for the sacral, and it's about the self-control, ambition, courage, thoughtfulness, lack of will. Okay, that particular thing there, it could be anything. Someone could not even like the color orange. It's more of a sacral color to women. But a lot of us need to learn and exhibit self-control and know how to have and tap into our own ambition. So the next is the yellow, and it is about being optimistic and being happy, intellectual, friendly, indecisive, or being easily led. So we know that yellow may be a catchy type of a thing also, but on the other dark spectrum, somebody might say that, hey, they don't have any, they're spineless, or they don't have a spleen, but that's being easily led. We'll talk about that and how it goes in relation to medical astrology to help you to heal a little bit better. Okay, so next is green, is the heart center, and it's speaking. The yellow was more or less of your solar plexus, so that's your intellectual and so forth. And so your green is about being peaceful, healing, compassion, deceitful, and jealousy. We're going to add envy inside there as well, because it's about being, you remember the green meanie, and we've heard about those types of energies when, coming up since we were childhood. And we're going to bring in some of those childhood trauma types of dialects later on in future podcasts, when we're speaking about inner child. Okay, so I promise I'm going to make it fun. It's not going to be just strictly just straight up nerd style. Okay, so we're going to go next to the blue, which is the spiritual being. Your spiritual, loyal, creative, sensitivity, kind, and moody. So we like blue, cool, mellow, The indigo color is about having benevolence and high intuitiveness and being a seeker. Like, are you a person that goes and seek? Those who seek shall find. Whether it's benevolent or malevolent, you'll find. So the next is violet. These are your crown centers, obviously. So it's about your high spiritual being and having wisdom and your intuitiveness. All of us have an innate system where we're able to tap in and say, something told me not to do this, that, and the third. Okay, well, it's that. It's those types of things, and we'll get into those when we're speaking about the subtle body. When the subtle body is kind of like when you're dealing with someone, and I tease and I say this, and it's like, did this person just insult me? you know and you're saying it in your head, but you're not really saying it out loud. But that's your subtle body energy. But you're not saying, like, before you actually respond. That's the energy before you have that 60 seconds on whether or not you're going to be able to, correct it about how you're going to react, or not. So the next one is your pink, which is the love and sincerity and your friendships. Those are more of a calmer, cooler color, colors about love, and we definitely want to address those when it's speaking about love and Venus and so forth. So the gray areas, my brother does this thing about 50 Shades of Gray, but it's 50 Shades of Funny, but it's, we've heard of the 50 Shades of Gray. But it's the depression, the sadness, exhaustion, and the low energy, as well as being a skeptic about any particular people, place, or a thing. Okay? So we're going to address a lot of that, of course, because we know that there are a lot of people that we may know that have not been able to draw themselves up from a particular people, place, or a thing of something that keeps you in a cycle or a perpetuated type of a thing. So whether it be because of the next color, which is brown, between the energies of greed, self-involvement, being very opinionated about a people, place, or a thing, and not really looking at it from different angles of someone else's perspective. Maybe they're not looking at everything as a whole, or maybe sometimes they just haven't gotten all the pieces together quite yet. So the black is about lacking energy, illness, and imminent death. Well, they always say that the bad guys wear black and so forth, or the men in black, or however they want to put it. But there's different types of ailments when it comes to imminent wearing of black. Also, next would be the white, which is perfect white balance. So in the yin and yang of the white and black, you would think that there should be a perfect balance with the white and a perfect balance of the black, which is the lacking energy or illness and imminent death. Well, it's kind of like a parallel type of a thing where you have to look at it through that spectrum and say, without the good, you can't have the bad, sort of speak. And it's kind of crazy, but those are some of the interpersonal rules, types of techniques and skills that you would learn also during a particular era, energy field, or time in your life, hopefully. As an adult, when you're a child, you do childlike things, and when you're an adult, you become an adult and you put away childish things and so forth, and become an adult and do your thing. You know what I mean? So next we'll go on to, like I said, we're going to do some of this medical astrology. So sometimes when people will celebrate their birthday, they'll know, hey, well, I'm this or I'm that. I'm an Aries. I'm this. I'm a Scorpio. I'm that, or I'm a Pisces. Well, to know their portion and to know their whole physical outbeing of who they are, When it comes to medical astrology, some people know their own mentality, how they make have a chemical imbalance, or maybe they do not, but maybe it's hereditary for some. Maybe they just think that because of they only seen one perspective since they were a child, that and had something emulated or mimicked to them, that that's something that they need to continue to carry on in the next life with, or the next level with another people, place, or a thing of a person. But we'll get into different aspects of those where we're speaking of the different personifications of the hierarchies of who you are when you thinking you're a particular zodiacal sign or whatever. But mainly, or even labeling yourself as a king or a queen or a teacher or an explorer. Someone is a judge or officer, those types. Any actors, mothers. We always have to, no matter what position of care in career field anyone particular played, a mother is still always going to be a mother no matter what. And like I said, because this is a sex planet, we all got here by the Yanni, by okay. So, and that's how I will probably address it for now, as far as the lady parts, to make some understand it in a more of a loving, holistic way. All right. So, when we are speaking of our body parts and what we're made of, I'm going to be speaking about sorry about that. I'm going to be speaking about key concepts about our bodies as how it relates to in a physical, earthly type of a material way, as well as how we think with our thoughts, as well as air, how we use them, and our fire, how we tap into our passions and our feelings when it comes to watery emotions. Okay, so if there's something that you might need to do, get your pen, your paper, your cups of water, your tea, or what have you. Because generally, when I get started on things like that, we can also we can have us a sip of tea. All right, so or whatever it is you do, smoke, drink, whatever. So on the taking and owning your own power, these are some of the things I'm going to speak to you about when it comes to us in a earthly body, when it comes to our pinnacles, our money, our physical possessions, how our health, income, our education, our career, our households, and our dwelling, okay, as far as our physical being. When it comes to the things that we think of our thoughts and communication and intellect, those are the things that, when someone says, hey, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, or what have you, those are the tongue, are, the things that we have and the things that we speak of. You can speak life and death into things. Okay. Hold on, I hear someone out there cutting grass. All right, so had to close the window there for a second. So when I'm speaking about different types of thoughts, processes, and us speaking by way of our tongue, our sword, utilizing that particular organ, it is about our thoughts, our communication, our intellect, as well as how we analyze things, the unfeeling, how we tap in, is how well as, how critical we are of things. Do we have anxiety? How calculated are we? Do we tell the truth, or little white lies, or some sort of do we pass judgment? Okay. So when we go on to the next, when we're speaking of, how do you tap into that? Because we all got in here, a little bit by fire and passion, how through however our parents might have connected by way of love, and the energy that tapped into by way of the root. the creation, how we came about, however, whether it was good or bad, you know, rape, incest, what have you, and so forth. You know, sorry about that if someone feels that that offended them, but it is what it is. But we're speaking of real, natural, love-based reality, and not the fear-based. So we're speaking of hot, fiery temper. Are you able to temper your or engage and govern your own temperament? How aggressive are you? How do you apply it to your a particular people, place, or thing? You know, because there's good trouble, bad trouble, versus having you also, you know, saying, oh, that was traumatizing, or that was a little bit traumatic, more so than you saying, man, that was traumatically fun, or you know, something like that. But because you went on some sort of adventure, you know, maybe an emotional roller coaster, or or real roller coaster. You took a risk, whatever the case may be. So, like I said, we're going to tap into those areas because we've all been made up of the same element of water and so forth. And so when we're speaking of the water aspect of us, it's about our feelings. How do we feel about most of the things that we interact with the people, place, or thing? How passionate are we when we're interacting with those different types of things? How do we govern our emotional estate? And I like to address it as your emotional estate, estate, because it is your inherited emotional state, because you can, the way that you think versus someone that you've been around and grew up with, you think like your parents, you talk like your parent, because you know, you emulated certain things that maybe you thought that were correct and maybe they weren't. There were aspects of some men who believe that they should not cry, versus understanding that it's okay to go ahead and have that sort of a release if they feel safe or vulnerable enough in their own space, so that they can be able to know that, hey, that's a purging of their aqueducts, of their system, of their water system, of their body, of their ship, of their motor ship, their starship, their Merkaba, whoever it is that they want to call it, that they living in, their physical being. Okay? So when we're speaking of the watery emotions, we're speaking of the emotional estate and how it relates to your physical being and your relations with people, places, and things, and how you relate it to love and fear-based reality, and how well you're able to tap in to those types of innate systems of yourself, and not allowing other people to put a battery in your back. So we're going to speak about being sensitive and receptive about different things, and mood swings, and having whether or not a person understands about having morals, values, or how they are gauging certain perspective in people, place, or things about stuff. Okay? So poetically, we're going to make sure that we all connect all of the elements, so that with when we kind of do the fifth element type of thing, you'll be able to understand it for yourself a little bit better. Maybe you didn't get it in such of a way, or understand it in a such of a way, but my tone is a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and address it. When I say I'm dealing with a particular topic, I will break it down enough to where you can be able to understand it in a more of a humanistic, eclectic way, where it's not so airy and you don't, and it's like, oh my gosh, come back, I don't understand it. Okay, so I'll be adding medical astrology along with it. Okay, so when we're speaking about different stuff, like I said, I'll be able to break different types of things down when I'm speaking about your nervous system, and how it relates to different types of relationships with people, because as you were coming up, from a childhood, you've learned to readjust your nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system in a particular way. Like, do I feel safe? Am I safe to even be around a particular family member? Am I safe to even open up, to even talk a particular way? Sometimes other people know that you're, some people, when somebody says, oh, they're the weak link, well, they know how to make you a sort of an anchor for them, so that you could be able to try to go and they can get some energy from you, and you go on through life, and you're thinking like you're living a particular way, and they just keep on using you as an anchor, and you haven't really noticed it because you thought maybe, um, every single time that they were coming around, they loved you. No, these people actually came around and they were saying, hey, they trauma bonded with you, or they trauma dumped on you. Some people say, yeah, hey, I just came to get some good energy from you. um, those are energy vampires. But ooh, excuse me, thank you. And we'll speak about different types of energies when it comes to the nervous system, and how some people kind of use your nervous system for theirs. I was just telling somebody that the other day about how our children has have a tendency to do a thing like that, because they come in, or with their emergency, they're, mom, and they're speaking to you in such of a way, and they're giving you everything that's going on, but it's so fast that you're just like, hey, slow down. You're trying to make my nervous system yours. You can't attach to me like that. It's one thing for me to anger you because I'm your parent, but when you start to try to make my nervous system yours and think that I'm supposed to have my nervous system react and respond in a certain type of a way like you, so that I'm stressed out. No, 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 no. See, now I've learned to understand it in a different way. It's not to say that it's none of my business, but certain things are not as an emergency for you as it is for me. And sometimes, depending on who it is, it's none of my business. Or for real, it could be none of my business. But those are other things that we'll speak about when we're taking back our own power from different people, places, things that we didn't even realize that we're still susceptible for, and falling up underneath when it comes to habit and trauma bonding ever since we were kids, or something that we thought that we needed to hold on to a particular people, place, or thing. Some people feel like they needed to have um, a closure for themselves in a particular way, because you just left them by the wayside, because you're just like, some things don't need closure. I got my closure. I don't need it from you. And you continue to interact with certain people, places, or things, you'll see how they'll react or respond to you when you don't give them the same energy that they're used to, and they're not used to you in a higher vibration. They're used to causing chaos, and they liked it when you were in a lower vibration, so that they can get an energy vampire you at any time, at any cost, whenever they see fit. All right. So we'll talk a little bit more into depth on some of these subjects and topics when it comes to love, life, wealth. Hey, I didn't say that earlier, but obviously so. Health is wealth. So we will be talking about different dialects of that when it comes to medical astrology, astrocartography, our nervous systems, the parasympathetic nervous systems, our glyph systems. We'll talk about sex, tantric sex, love, healthy sex, healthy communication types of things. I'll even share some of my experiences in the world, so that should be interesting. Okay, so everything will be all in healthy fun. So I hope that you enjoyed my podcast today, and that you do come back. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, share it with your friends. Um, Make sure that when you tune in or you see this again, that you are able to tune back in and listen. Like I said, it's just a podcast, so if you're driving, you can listen to it. That's cool. But nobody should be trying to look at their phone and look at the pictures and look at the streamline while it's going, anything like that, because I'm not showing anything different saying, hey, look at this. Okay, just listening. You're actively listening. So, graciously appreciate your time, and do come back to own your own power. Much love to you.